Welcome to the chemistry online classes. The next chapter I am starting in inorganic chemistry, solvents. And most of the time we use in organic chemistry or any inorganic reactions we use as solvents. What is solvent? We can define solvent as a substance which has the power of dissolving other substance. We call it as solvent, which is having power of dissolving other substance in it is called as solvent. Let's go with the classification types of solvent. If you take a types of solvent, we have a different types are there. First I am taking first type, that is protic and aprotic solvents. What is protic solvent? In protic solvent, from which proton can be derived, those solvents we call it as protic solvent. For example, let's take a water. It is an example for protic solvent. So here, which solvent we can derive a proton? Proton is nothing but H plus. Those solvents we call it as protic solvents. So the condition is whenever we are looking at the proton, always it has to attach to the more electronegative atom like oxygen or maybe nitrogen or maybe like a fluoride. High electronegative atoms, if it is attached, the bond polarization will take place toward the more electronegative side and it will be H plus is derived. So these kind of molecule which is act as a protic solvent. So here water, an example. If you take a ammonia, this is an example for protic solvent. HF, all these solvents are an example for protic solvent. So the solvent which proton can be derived is called as protic solvent. And aprotic solvent is the solvent in which proton cannot be derived. Those we call it as aprotic solvents. So aprotic solvent is proton cannot be derived. Solvent from which proton cannot be derived. Is called as aprotic solvent. If you take example CCl4, carbon tetrachloride, or benzene C6H6, acetonitrile, all these solvents are an example for aprotic solvent. Protic solvent and aprotic solvent. In the protic solvent, the solvent from which proton can be derived. In the aprotic solvent, the proton cannot be derived. Those solvents we call it as aprotic solvent. Let's move on to next classification. The next classification is ionizing solvent and non-ionizing solvent. If you look at ionizing solvent, and which solvent we call it as ionizing solvent is the solvent which undergoes auto-ionization or self-ionization. This solvent we call it as ionizing solvent. If you look at example water is an example for ionizing solvent. How it will undergo auto-ionization? If you take two moles of water, one of the water molecule give H plus to the other water molecule, which is converted into H3O plus and OH minus. This is called auto-ionization or self-ionization. Similarly, take a ammonia. Ammonia also undergoes autoionization such that which gives NH4 plus and NH2 minus. So any solvent which is undergoing auto or self ionization, those solvents we call it as ionizing solvent. So example for ionizing solvent is water and ammonia. Non-ionizing solvent. So the solvent which do not ionizes at all are called non-ionizing solvent. Non-ionizing solvents. So these solvent which do not ionize at all are called non-ionizing solvent. Take an example for non-ionizing solvent, CCl4. It cannot be ionized. Benzene. These are an example for non-ionizing solvent. So by ionization we are classifying solvent into two types. If the solvent is undergoing self-ionization or auto-ionization, those we call it as ionizing solvent. If which do not ionizes at all, those we call it as non-ionizing solvents. Ionizing solvents are having high dielectric constant epsilon. Dielectric constant. So ionizing solvents we also called as polar solvent. Non-ionizing solvent which is having less dielectric constant, and these we call it as non-polar solvent. So if you compare with the dielectric constant, the dielectric constant having high, those solvents we call it as ionizing solvents or polar solvents. Non-ionizing solvents which is having dielectric constant is low, and this is also called as non-polar solvent. And the third type of classification is acidic solvent, basic solvent and amphiphotric solvent. Which solvent we call it as acidic solvent? The solvent which has a strong tendency to give proton are called acidic solvent. Take an example, liquid HF which is having high tendency to release H plus. So the solvent is readily donates H plus, those we call it as acidic solvent. Take a concentrated H2SO4, acetic acid. These all solvents which is having a tendency to give proton to the other substance, that's why this called as a acidic solvent. Next one is basic solvent. Basic solvent which have strong affinity for proton. And this solvent is called as basic solvent. Example, liquid ammonia. Ammonia accepts proton, so this is an example for basic solvent. Similarly, pyridine also basic, which accepts proton. Hydrazine, and these all solvents are an example for basic solvent. Acidic solvent is which is having a strong tendency to give proton. Basic solvent is strong affinity for proton, is called as basic solvent. Amphiphotric solvent. So which solvent we call it as amphiphotric is the solvent which are neither have a strong tendency to gain nor a strong tendency to lose protons, is called as amphiphotric solvent. So example for amphiphotric solvent is water. So these are the three different types of classification is there in the solvent. The first one is based on protic and aprotic solvent. Second one is ionizing, non-ionizing. Third one is acidic solvent, basic solvent and amphipoteric solvents. Next move on to the characteristic properties of a solvent. So in this, the first one is melting point and boiling point. So melting point is at what temperature the substance is melt, that is solid is converting into liquid. That temperature is called as melting point of that substance. Boiling point is the vapor pressure of the substance is equal to atmospheric pressure. At what temperature we will observe, that is we will take it as a boiling point. Or in the same simple term, the liquid phase is converted into vapor phase, and that temperature we will take it as a boiling point at atmospheric pressure or under atmospheric pressure. So what information we get from melting point and boiling point of a solvent? For example, I am taking water as a solvent. The melting point of the water is 0 degrees. At 0 degrees temperature, it will start melt from ice to water. This is melting point of the water. What about the boiling point of the water? It is 100 degrees. So what information we will get from the melting point and boiling point is, in between these 2 degrees, that is 0 to 100 degrees, water is exist in the liquid state, we can use for the solvent. So what temperature we can use water as a solvent is from melting point to boiling point, 0 to 100 degrees, which is having very variable temperature, we can use water as a solvent. If I take example 2, ammonia. Ammonia melting point is minus 77.7 degrees and its boiling point is minus 33.5 degrees. So here also you can clearly see that the temperature from minus 77 to minus 33, liquid ammonia we can use for the solvent. But above this temperature what happens? It is converted into vapor. Below this temperature it is converted to solid. We cannot use this for solvent. So melting point and boiling point, always it will give information about the at what temperature ranges we can use particular solvent. This is the one characteristic properties of a solvent. Next one is molar heat of fusion and molar heat of vaporization. So what is molar heat of fusion and molar heat of vaporization? Molar heat of fusion is the heat absorbed by one mole of substance, to change from solid to liquid state. Solid to liquid state is called molar heat of fusion. The heat absorbed by 1 mole of substance to convert from solid state to liquid state is called as molar heat of fusion. What is molar heat of vaporization? Heat absorbed by 1 mole of substance, 1 mole of substance to convert liquid state to vapor state is called as molar heat of vaporization. So here we are converting solid into liquid, that's what we call it as fusion. So heat absorbed by 1 mole, if we say 1 mole, it is comes under molar heat of fusion, or 1 mole of the substance which is converting into liquid into vapor state by absorbing heat, that we call it as molar heat of vaporization. What information we will get from molar heat of fusion, molar heat of vaporization with respect to the solvent is, it is always will tell you that the nature or strength of the intermolecular attraction forces which is present in between the molecule in the solid state or liquid state. If heat of fusion data is very high compared with other solvent, if heat of fusion data is coming very high, that means the intermolecular force of attraction in the solid state which is having very high, and we have to supply lot of energy to break that intermolecular attraction forces. So the primary information of the molecular attraction forces we will get from the data of molar heat of fusion or molar heat of vaporization. Let's take one example data. Let's take water. If you take a water, what is the molar heat of fusion is 6.02 kilojoules per mole. This much of energy we have to supply to convert 1 mole of water molecule into its solid to liquid. If you are taking heat of fusion, molar heat of vaporization of water is 40.65 kilojoules per mole. So this much of energy we have to supply or heat 1 mole of water will absorb to convert from liquid to vapor. So this is always indicates that what kind of molecular attraction forces which are present, the intermolecular attraction forces. So their greater value, the strength of the intermolecular attraction forces will be strong in the liquid and solid states. The last one is dielectric constant. Dielectric constant equation mathematically given by Coulombic force of attraction between the two ions cation and anion, F equal to Q1 Q2. These are the charges of, let's take cation and anion, by epsilon dielectric constant into R1 plus R2 square. R1 and R2 are radii of the two anion, cation and anion, whole square. So what information we will get from dielectric constant value is, here we can see the force of attraction between the two ions and dielectric constant, it is inversely proportional. The dielectric constant data here will tell you about the solubility of ionic compounds in particular solvent, solubility of ionic compounds. If epsilon, the data of dielectric constant of particular solvent which is having very high dielectric constant, which is having a high ability to dissolve ionic compounds in it. If the dielectric constant is low, then it is very difficult to dissolve ionic compounds in the particular solvent. So whenever we are selecting a particular solvent, we will look at dielectric constant of particular solvent, then only we will apply whether ionic compounds are soluble or not. So in the types of solvents also we have discussed about ionizing and non-ionizing. Ionizing solvents is having high dielectric constant, that's why we call it as polar solvent. Whenever polar solvents are there, most of the time we can use ionic compounds in the polar solvent such that it can be soluble. Okay. So these are some of the characteristic properties of the solvents and types. So next class we will start with one of the non-aqueous liquid or non-aqueous solvent, that is liquid ammonia. With respect to the liquid ammonia, we will discuss about autoionization, some of the reactions in liquid ammonia and the properties of liquid ammonia.